Okay, welcome everyone to our September 1st Board of Commissioners meeting. And we'll call the meeting to order and we'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Commissioner Bunting.
Present.
Commissioner Murphy.
Here.
Commissioner Lambert.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Bailey.
Here. All please stand for the invocation and the pledge. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we just thank you for the day that you've given to us and the blessings in it. We just praise and thank you for all things. We ask continued prayers, Father, for our men and women overseas serving our country and at home. We ask also, Father, for our prayers and blessings for our first responders who go out every day and to protect our lives. We ask all these things, Father, in your Son's precious name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Born and unborn.
Thank you. Be seated. Okay. Additions or deletions to the agenda. I will just put it out there that we do have a closed session at the end of our agenda, and then we will be coming back in. It says adjournment, but just before our adjournment, I assume that we're going to be voting on a couple of union contracts. So just to let everybody be aware of that. Okay, so any other additions or deletions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved and supported. Is there any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Oh, sorry.
We need a roll call.
Andy, please.
Commissioner Bunting.
Yes.
Commissioner Lambert.
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey.
Yes. Yeah, I just have to be patient with me. I can't give up old habits. Hey, brief public comments. Anyone wishing to make a public comment may do so at this time. Matt, you got anybody online?
I do see somebody joined by the name of John. If John wants to make a public comment, feel free to unmute.
Right.
I'm not seeing him unmute, so I'm assuming he's just viewing it. So. Yeah, I think we're all set with public comment.
Okay, very good. All right, consideration of consent calendar, board minutes, communication, recommendation from committees.
Move we approve. Support.
Moved and supported. Is there any other discussion? Ask the clerk to call the roll.
Commissioner Lambert.
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Commissioner Bunting.
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey.
Yes. Okay, at this time, we'll entertain a motion to go into a public hearing to have our budget presented to us.
So moved. Support.
Discussion. Ask the clerk to call the roll.
Commissioner Murphy.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Commissioner Bunting.
Yes.
Commissioner Lambert. Commissioner Bailey.
Yes. Brady, I believe Chris is up, ready to go.
Okay, everybody's favorite board meeting is here, where we get to go through the 200-page budget document for next year. Can you see the budget book on your screen?
You can hear, yes.
Very good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the table of contents with you, let you know which things have changed, which things I've gone over, which things you guys have already seen. And then we'll start picking through some of the pieces that talked to you about previously, emails when we set that up. First of all, the budget transmittal letter, what that is the budget essentially in story form. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start with that when we do our review. Our budget resolution summary, this is the format that has been provided to you about 2 months ago. If it is the board's wish to pass this budget tonight, we will loop back to this resolution at the end of the presentation. Goals and objectives were presented to the board a month and a half ago. You were instrumental in suggesting tweaks to it, which are in there. A capital improvement plan, which has been presented. Entities that receive funds from Gratiot County. This is just a simple list that carried over from the prior year. There were no additions or deletions. Fee schedules are included in here. The only fee schedules that have changed were related to animal control. And this was approved by the board at the beginning of this fiscal year. If you'll remember, there were some fees that actually went down to help promote adoptions. Elected officials' compensation and salary schedule by union. These have not been updated for our current year because at the time, currently we have not ratified the union negotiations. So that's something also to note, that throughout this document, any potential future wage increases approved by the board tonight have not been incorporated in this document. And the reason for that is because this document had to go live for public view 7 days before this open hearing. And unfortunately, we still had not completed our negotiations at that time. So it will be necessary to have budget amendments in the next month in October to reflect the new wages if the board passes those tonight. And then we have Gratiot County employees by department. It's just a list of each department and how many people are employed in each one. Then we get to the actual budget documents here. These are the numbers that the board will choose to either pass or fail. The general fund summary expenditure by department. I brought this to the board 2 weeks ago. So there were some minor changes that were made to it, and I'll get to those when we get to that page. Our funding sources for expenditures. This is every fund, what our budget is in each of those funds, and where the money is going to come from. We'll go over those. And then our fund balance projections. The reason that we have fund balance projections included in here is because sometimes our funding source for expenditures is fund balance. So then I need to show you that we have the fund balance to be able to cover those expenditures. And then here we have our supplemental information, which was historically the only document that you received when you looked at the budget. It is the 7,500 lines of data that shows each fund, each account category, each expenditure, which are all rolled up into these documents up here. So what I've tried to do for you in presenting this budget is take that 7,500 lines of data and condense it down to 1 or 2 pages so that you can look at it. You can compare it to last year. If something doesn't look right, you have that data that you can fall back on to see what's changed in the budget detail. So I'm going to start us off here in our transmittal letter, which is basically our budget in words. What it'll do is it'll tell you what's changed from last year, what type of potential issues could we run into this year. So first off, our current budget for the general fund is scheduled at $13.1 million. just in comparison from last year, that was set at $13.8 million. So we're seeing a decrease in our general fund budget, primarily related to budgeting less money to go to our OPEB fund. Because after our contribution of this year, we will only be $300,000 short of being 100% funded. So we're going from contributing $750,000 this year to $300,000 next year. So we're seeing that decrease in expenditures from our general fund for that. We're averaging about $51,000 per working day. Last year, it was $53,500. Our total county budget, which includes our general fund and all the special revenue funds, we're looking at $38 million. The last year is $37 million. I'll get into the details of the increase, but just a little teaser. It's road commission and drains. More projects. It's not related to what you would consider the typical county operations. All right, I listed out some of the challenges in this year's budget. And first and foremost was the emergency declaration due to the outbreak of COVID-19. Revenues are more difficult to forecast. We're not certain that we're going to be getting the same revenue next year that we got from the state or feds this year. Some of the money we might get might have more stipulations to it. And also, frankly, unexpected expenditures can pop up. We don't know if we'll get reimbursed for them. Continued questions around the turbine tax litigation. Our retirement expenses, again, while we are getting ahead of the game, we're still in the game, so that there's still a challenge to our budget, even though we're making significant headway. This year, it is approximately 10% of our general fund revenues are earmarked to go towards either our pension or our OPEB fund. But the good news is last year, that number was 13%. So our number is getting a little bit lower. And then once again, I just wanted to highlight the timing of our union negotiations versus when the budget needed to be presented. Did not allow for me to build in any potential salary increases into this budget. So we're going to have to loop around and do that. Just to show you where our revenues are coming from. Obviously, our largest is generated from taxes. This is our general operating tax. Last year, that number was at 7.6 million. We're looking at 8.2 in the upcoming year due to 2 additional wind farms that are in progress. One thing that has taken a hit this year is our projected for next year is our department generated. We're projecting about 2.5 compared to 3 million last year. And that is a projection of the continued slowdown due to COVID-related activities and precautions.
Can we ask questions as you go?
Certainly.
Okay, can we back up a little bit? I have 2
Yeah.
questions before we move on. What was the total that we have to put into the, how do you pronounce it, the OPEB?
OPEB,
OPED?
300,000.
How much?
2 point. You want to know how much our entire liability is or how much we're
Yes.
going to put into it next year?
No, the whole thing, the whole liability.
Whole liability, a couple $1 million.
I knew it was 3 something.
2.3 million.
2.3 million?
Mhm.
Correct.
That's all we had to put in altogether, right?
That is correct.
That's
Total, okay.
100% funded, yeah.
And
We
then
started making contributions last year.
So the 300,000, that'll be done.
That is correct.
Okay,
And the 300,000 we put in this year, it goes to the 750 we put last year, and we'll still have another 300,000 next year, or approximately.
oh, I see, okay, so 700, what's that, 700?
750 we put in last year.
1.25 million last year,
Or one took, well, we took 750 out of the
general fund.
general fund to do it.
Yep.
Okay, and then we're gonna add
300.
300,000.
All right. And then next year we'll finish it off with another 300 and whatever.
Okay, 300,000.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
That'd be 2022. We never paid them.
Yeah. 21, 22 budget here.
2022.
Yeah, it'll be 20, well, today's 2021, then next year will be 21, 22 budget year.
Oh,
Will be the
okay.
rest of them.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay, so looking at our expenditures, there were a few minor tweaks, like I said, in the general fund that I made, which when we get to that detail, I will tell you about. We are now projecting a $114,725 surplus. Again, that does not factor in any increases to salaries due to union negotiations.
Hey, Chris, can I stop you right there?
Yep.
Back to this pie shape here. You said department generated funds are going to be down this year.
Correct.
You said because of COVID. I mean, we're just normal business that we're doing. Why would that slow down? I mean, give me an example of why that would slow down, I guess, when I look at like the clerk's office, I mean, would the courts slow down or why would the department funds be slowed down, I guess?
One of our largest drivers is through district court tickets. So if you would have a philosophy where you wanted less face-to-face between officers and the general public, you might be issuing more warnings instead of writing more tickets. We also are running out of real estate to put windmills on. The Register of Deeds has done hundreds of thousands of dollars in business with these windmill farms while they're pulling records looking for suitable places to put windmills, and that is going to be going away because basically we're full.
Yep. Okay, but
those are the two biggest drivers. While I do expect ticket fees to rebound, I don't think that they're going to rebound to what they were, 2-3 years ago without an end in sight with what is going on right now.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So our total salary, wages, and benefits represent 62% of our general fund revenues. I like to present this statistic because a couple years ago, I did a little study on, I included some counties that I thought were very fiscally responsible, and I included some counties that I thought were not fiscally responsible. And there was always, everyone fell in a range between 56% and 66% of their expenditures were salaries. And it did not surprise me that those that were at the higher end of the scale in the mid 60s, they typically ran deficits and were unable to balance their budgets because a high percentage of their expenditures were fixed, could not be cut without cutting personnel. And those that were fiscally responsible were in the high 50s, in the high 50% of that. So I like to keep an eye on where our salary, wage, and benefit percentages compared to what our revenues are. But I will also let you know, built into those benefits is our OPEB bond payment, which is $800,000. If you remove that from this calculation, Gratiot County salaries, wages, and benefits is actually at 56% of revenues, which is dead on with the best of the best fiscal responsible counties that I could find. So I thought that was just a nice little nugget to throw out there for you. Operating supplies, we're continuing to consolidate contracts, renewing them, bidding them out. We have a list of our general fund debt service. Keep grabbing a hold of that draft. We have one debt payment that we paid off this fiscal year, and that was related to the jail refinance. So it is no longer, that was a $200,000 a year payment, which we will not be making next year because it is paid off. And then the largest portion of our general fund that outside of salaries is appropriations to other county programs. We're at $1.82 million for that this year, and last year we were at 2.5 million. So we've been able to significantly decrease that. A large portion of that, again, is contributing less money to our OPEB fund. And then some of the things to monitor during the year, COVID-related costs, making sure that we're getting grant reimbursements from the state and the feds for COVID costs. We got to watch our state funding, our state revenue sharing to see if they're going to pay us the amount that we're expecting. We always try to keep an eye on the child care fund. Child care fund pays for juvenile detention, and juvenile detention can crash a budget in a hurry. So it's always
Chris, on the state funding, what'd you project into the budget? A decrease, or what number did you use?
For our current fiscal year we're operating in now, we were going to get 900,000 from them. What I projected for next year, I believe, was in the neighborhood of 620,000. I
Okay,
think it was a 28% decrease, somewhere in that neighborhood, 28, 30%.
okay.
So I was very conservative when I budgeted for that.
So you think we're going to get 620,000, did you say?
I'd have to go,
That's what he's estimating.
right here's the 903 that we're expecting in our current year. So I budgeted 615,000. The way that I came up with that number is I looked back to 2011, the last time that the state significantly cut state revenue sharing to the counties. And I looked at the percentage that they cut it when they ran into that financial crisis then. And I applied that percentage to now, even though I think the state government might even be in a worse spot now than they were then, even though that was considered a financial crisis. But that was a economic Wall Street level financial crisis, where right now the people that are really hurting are the state and local governments.
Chris,
Yes.
just along those same lines, when you use that 900,000 figure for this year, does that include the payment now that should be in our account Monday, the new one that came in that was supposed to replace the August revenue sharing? I know there's strings attached to that, and I haven't been able to find the strings that are attached anywhere. But it looks like at least we got $357,000, which.
Yeah, that's because they haven't published the strings yet. I know
That's
what
what
they
I did.
are, but they haven't even, they gave us the money before they told us how we could spend it.
Well, at least we got the money. And, I would add to, for those of you who reached out, I know I, talked to everybody who represented us, trying to make sure that we got a piece of that because, the original funding was limited to those states and municipalities over 500,000. And so, we've been trying to beat the drum to make sure that smaller units of government got funding. And if you look at that list, all of our villages and cities did get funding besides the county. So that's good news. But, there's strings. And again, there's no official list of the strings, but that's what Chris gets paid the big bucks for.
Yep, we were supposed to get 215,000 of unrestricted money. We ended up getting $326,000 of money that's going to be restricted based on the CARES Act. Now, if they're going to expand that a little bit, they haven't said, but that's the only guidance we have is that it has to be spent in accordance with the CARES Act, which means preventing, essentially preventing COVID from spreading some way, somehow. So I'm not prepared to discuss how we are going to be able to do that yet, but at one point very soon I will, because I have to submit a grant application by the 15th of this month, which also has not been published yet. So.
Figures.
All right, is it okay if I jump back to where I was, Jan? Are you satisfied?
Yes.
Okay, very good. And last but not least, we again have the county landfill as a continuing challenge. And Tracy now knows more about that than I'm sure she wishes she ever would, but we budgeted $50,000 for that again, but there are some significant upgrades that need to be performed out there that I'm not prepared to speak about, but I'm sure at some administrator report updates, you'll start hearing about those a little bit more.
I'd like to say something about the landfill.
Please.
It's been all over the news about California. They have the solar windows and the wind turbines, and apparently because it's so warm out there, they have blackouts where they don't have any electricity at all due to the fact that they I guess they switched over too quickly is what they're saying on the news. And there's nothing they can do. They've got to go without electricity. So I'm wondering, this is a great idea to have wind turbines and solar windows, but maybe there's more maybe people use a lot more than what somebody was figuring on. I know it's a real problem. I'm hearing about it every day on the news. Have you guys heard about it? Do you watch the news? Yeah, it's been on the news I've heard it for over a week now.
Oh. All right. Go ahead, Chris.
All right, so I'm going to jump down to the general fund summary of expenditures by department. This is the document that was presented 2 weeks ago. I have made 2 changes to this document. The first change that I made.
Chris, what page are you on?
Page 28.
Yeah, I was gonna skip over these for right now.
Okay, we're gonna go back to this.
Yeah, those are just the fees and stuff that different departments charge.
Oh,
Okay.
questions in there. But we'll come back to it.
28,
28.
okay.
Mine is not on 28.
Yeah.
Should have page number 28 on the bottom of it.
Oh, I see it right here. I was in there.
Okay. So I didn't touch anything here in general government. I didn't touch anything here in public safety. I didn't touch anything in health and welfare, nothing in rec and culture. I did change the insurance. You have to forgive me for 1 second because it doesn't look like I changed it.
Yeah, 2021.
Okay, I did. That is right.
Yeah, because it didn't move much.
Okay, I'm back. I was able to get better numbers from our insurance agent essentially on what we're going to be reimbursed for next year. I was able to bring that down $15,000. And I double counted an interest payment that would have been made to the delinquent tax fund. So I decreased our appropriations to other funds by $21,000. So those are the only two changes in the general fund budget. So you see we're going from 18 and 19, $13.6 million total. 1920, $13.8 million. What we're recommending for our current year is $13.1 million. I wish I could point something out here to explain, but it's a really basic budget. I mean, when you look at some of your biggest of big departments, we're looking at county sheriff here, 1.45 million, 1.47 million, and this year 1.54 million. And when I explained that increase a couple weeks ago, that was just a redistribution of who pays some of the pension costs that go to MERS and that go to paying some of our debt payment that we have for refinancing. In county jail, the 3-year trend, 1.6, 1.62, 1.54. There's no surprises in this general fund budget. We're simply maintaining services and maintaining the current personnel that we have. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have about the general fund budget that weren't asked or answered a couple weeks ago.
Are you gonna go back at all, Chris?
Yeah, if there are individual questions about some of the forms that we,
Jan had some questions on the fees, I believe she
Yeah, I
was.
got a few questions. One of them is on page 27. I believe this is where you put how many people are working in every
25.
department. I was trying to figure out, how do you get 1.48 of a person?
well, we have part-time employees. So a part-time employee, a full-time employee is one FTE. An FTE is a full-time equivalent. So if you have 0.48 of a full-time equivalent, that means they'd be working 48% of what a full-time employee would.
Okay, 48%.
19 hours a week.
So it's not by the hour, it's just
No.
by the week.
19 hours a week, yep.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know on that. And then, let's go backwards here. I'll see if I had some more questions.
Okay.
Nothing real serious. But yeah, I had some pay or numbers, let's see, or questions on,
What page you on, Jan, so we can all
I'm
get
on
there?
page 19. Oh, on page 19, it was about the permits. And when I was going down through here, I know that the wind turbines have to buy a permit to put the wind turbines in. Which one of these is for that? Because when they first started, they paid $2,997 for a permit. But I don't see it on here.
Average cost.
You're on page 19, you said?
Yes, it's the Gratiot County permits fee schedule.
What exactly was your question? One more time, I apologize.
Okay, I wondered where, I don't see where their permit is here. I know that because there was a big discussion about when Mr. Doyle would go out and do a, what do you call it?
Inspection?
Inspection, yes. The fee on that was $2,997 per wind turbine. And so I wondered, and at the time, the DTE or whoever was putting them in thought that was kind of pricey, and I thought it was too at the time. But anyway, that's what they charged. I don't see it on here. I don't see anything that refers to it.
It's at the bottom of the fee schedule, I believe. Okay. Utility scale
Said
wind
the-
turbines.
$10 per linear foot.
I don't see that.
The second column, Jan, utility scale wind turbines.
Yeah, all the way to the right on the bottom, Jan,
So it's $10 per feet?
for lineal foot.
Okay.
Of height.
Right, grade to hub height.
Is
So
that height?
basically from the ground level all the
From
way
the
up
ground
to
to the hub.
Yeah, but when they measured it, it was before they put the cement in, there was a rod in the bottom. And it had to be exactly the right distance. If it was off even a half of an inch, then they would have to replace it.
Well, that's inspection.
Yeah,
That's
that's
not the fee.
with the fee.
No, but what I'm saying is that fee was $2,997. That's where I wondered where it's not on here. It was a flat fee.
Well, if you had a 300-foot windmill at $10 a foot, that'd be $3,000.
Right, because it's $10 per lineal foot.
And lineal's a little different, but it's probably around between $2,500 and $3,000. I can't tell you for sure, but
So they no longer, it doesn't go like in the ground, instead it goes in the height. Because it used to be the fee was in the ground that went from, it was a rod in the ground, it wasn't anything, it wasn't.
There's
height.
multiple points of inspection, and the fee covers every point of inspection.
Uh-huh,
So they will look at it at the very beginning when they have the re-rod in there. They'll look at it after the foundation is poured. They'll look at it when they put it up. The fee is for the entire project.
Yes.
okay. Okay, that kind of answers my question anyway.
another one, Jan?
Yeah, I had one more on page 20. It says utilities. Was this something new, including not, it says including but not limited to underground cable, pipe or pipelines? Is that, this is what people have to pay if, what is it? 1 mile is $100. Each additional mile is $35. And this is something new that someone has to pay if they're putting in cable or a pipeline or something. I didn't see it on the old permit sheet.
This is soil erosion, isn't it? Chris? Yeah. So this is soil erosion. I'm not aware of any changes in the fee schedule this year. Are you, Chris?
No, we sent it to them and they did not update anything.
Yeah. So it's in there.
I checked it from a while back and I guess I didn't see it on, so I figured it was something new.
No, I know in the past, for example, if there's a fiber optic project, it's obviously there's been a lot of cable laid because of the wind projects, but even before that, fiber optic projects, for example, of the utility lines, that's a soil erosion permit fee that they pay.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. I was just wondering.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
okay.
And then Chris, on page 29, you were talking about the insurance. It says the actual budget of 73,000 in the prior year jumped to 105. So that increase is built into the reasons why the budget was increased.
reasons why the budget,
Well, so there, for some reason, we thought it was gonna be 73,000, right?
okay?
But it
This
actually
was our,
came in,
this, for 2018, 2019, it actually came in at 73,000.
okay,
2019, 2020, we budgeted 105,000 for it.
okay.
You know, the more lawsuits that we are a participant in, the less money we get back on our insurance premium.
Okay,
Does that make sense to you?
right. So that's somewhat of a projection then also, the 100,000 for this year?
This is what we have been told by our insurance agent at MMRMA, is that we're going to be billed for our insurance $100,758.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to take us down here to the remainder of
What page,
the,
John, Chris?
pardon?
What page?
We're looking at page 32.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. And this will be the remainder of the budgets for the funds that are outside of the general fund. You'll see the general fund is in the first row. Our total budget amount, $13.1 million. How we're going to pay for that $13.1 million, 8.2 will be local taxes, 2.5 department generated, 2.1 federal and state, for total revenues brought in of $12.9 million. And then we'll have $300,000 transferred in from other funds to help pay for our expenditures that year. That is how we read this particular spreadsheet. Now, if you'll remember in the transmittal letter, we did talk about total fund or total budget for all funds, $38 million. We see that down here at the bottom of page 32. If you'll remember, last year's was $37 million, so we have increased by about $1 million from all of these funds. And again, that's made up of road commission's budget. They're budgeted $9.9 million in expenditures this upcoming year. In the prior year, it was 9.6. Our drain fund is budgeted for $6.3 million this year. Last year it was 5.8. And our debt service, 1.6 million this year, last year 1.5. So that's where we come up with the additional $1 million in Gratiot County's total expenditures increase for the upcoming year. Again, and everything else, you won't see any surprises in here. The previous page, page 31, shows us our numbers from last year to compare these two. And they're pretty close to spot on year after year, except for those that I highlighted related to drains and road commission. If you have any questions about any individual funds,
Yeah, you said that the numbers are about the same, but did you make a mistake on the, go all the way down to the total?
okay?
That last one says 825,522 last year, and this year it's 189,038.
The column that you're looking at is the amount of money that we had to dip into fund balance in order to fund these expenditures. And last year, if you'll look, you'll see that the very first row, which is general fund, so I'm talking about page 31,
Okay,
fund sources of the 1920 Gratiot County budget, which is our current operating year. We're estimating we're going to dip into our fund balance a little over $500,000. We're doing that in order to send some money to our OPEB trust account. Now, the next page, page 32, the first line, general fund, you'll see that we're not dipping into our fund balance.
Mhm.
So that's why you're seeing a larger total from last year using fund balance than you are seeing in the upcoming year using fund balance. Because we have to put less money into our OPEB because we're going to be 100% funded. For anybody out there that wants to report that.
Okay. Anything else, Chris?
At this point, no, I'd like to open it up for discussion or questions or anything that you have. I don't have anything pressing to present to you. Unfortunately, I feel like it was a boring budget year. Even though revenues were down, we were able to make up a significant amount of expected loss from the state and the feds with 2 additional wind farms that are going on the tax roll. So hopefully in the future, we'll see that state money start to come back too.
You forgot to mention that $70,000 savings on medical examiner.
You know what? I should highlight that one. We can do a 3-year trend on what our ME, excuse me, our ME cost. And in fact, I had to, I projected even more savings in the upcoming year because the revenue intake of the permits that we have been issuing was significantly higher than what we had originally guessed.
Yep.
But I think we were conservative when we put that together the first time.
Yep, we were. Well, I want to tell you, I just think for a lot of uncertainty and we still provide pretty good service. And I look at people at Gratiot County as our customers. I think they, we're watching their money and I think we're still providing pretty good service and seems that we have a handle on it. And I want to thank you, Chris, for this.
Well, there's a lot of people here that provide
Yep.
about anything for people. I mean, they provide the services for people outside if they're not comfortable coming in and things like that. So it's wonderful.
Yeah, I would agree with Sam's assessment and also point out that, if you look at our expenditures, our expenditures have been amazingly flat, all things considered. And I think it's just because, every year we continue to improve our efficiency and our productivity. I think a good indication of this, Chris, is when you pointed out that if you look at the percentage, the net percentage of our budget that goes to salaries, basically to, to employee wages, it's very low compared to our peers. On the other hand, if you look at what we're actually paying our people, and we just did this, some of you were involved in, negotiations where we just did this and looked at our peer counties, and our wages are very competitive, which really what that means is we're just doing things very efficiently. We have productive people, we have productive systems, and so we're getting a lot of bang for the buck. It's not that we're paying our people too little money, and that's why it's a low percentage. It's just because we're running a tight, well-functioning ship, and the administrative team really deserves some credit for that. You're making us look good.
Yeah.
Except for Sam, who did save us about 70 grand. He gets a piece of cake too.
Jan has a question.
Yeah, I have some questions here. Just things that I'm curious about.
You bet.
Can we go to page 36? It's Board of Commissioners. And I was wondering, Use of fairground fee, $3,000. What would that be? I mean, I'm glad we give the 3,000 to the fair group, but I was just curious to know what it was.
I see it here.
That's
In
actually a
fact,
revenue?
I did not budget it for next year. I think this is something that's been carried over year after year. Perhaps a long time ago, the Alma Fair would pay Gratiot County a fee, but I don't believe I've ever seen that come in, so I cut it from the budget.
Yes, that's actually, Jan, that's actually not an expenditure. We're not paying that out. That was something that we anticipated we would get, but I don't know either if we receive that anymore. I thought we stopped getting that. But I'm not sure.
Do you know anything about it?
Wouldn't it be use of the Ithaca Fairground?
No,
Well, because we don't own it, and
nothing.
I don't think you should have to pay
I
us
don't think
anything.
that, yeah.
So something we could look into.
Yeah, we actually own that property, part of that property out there for Fair for Youth.
In Alma?
Yeah, I remember when they put the sidewalk out there,
County.
we ended up, I believe, paying an assessment on it.
Yeah, on a sidewalk.
Mhm.
City of Elm.
Okay, and then another question I have is indirect cost reimbursement.
Yes.
And it's 255,000. What is reimbursement? What is that for? Indirect reimbursement?
Indirect costs is trying to think of the easiest way to explain.
You want me to take it, Chris?
I can do it. I'm just trying to make it as simple as possible. When the general fund, like myself, who works in finance, provides services to a county department that is not part of the general fund, for example, Parks and Rec, I charge them a small fee for my services. So Parks and Rec sends a small amount of money to help pay for finance, to help pay for payroll, to help pay for HR
IT.
services.
Right.
So things like that. So this is the general fund charging federal grants, millages that are not part of the general fund, a portion of operations costs.
So what do we do with this money? It just stays there, or do we put it in the general fund?
It's part of the general fund revenues.
Okay, but you don't have it in the revenue. You don't have it there. You have it here instead, right? So like if we needed this money, we could go here and take it.
It's already in the fee.
It is budgeted as a revenue coming in next year,
Right.
And then
which
here's
we
the-
will turn around and spend.
Okay, here's a
Because-
reimbursement other. You had two of them here. You got another one here. It says reimbursement other, and that's 60,000. Excuse me.
What we get underneath that line item is, once we go through an audit with workers' comp, we get a reimbursement check from them, and that's where we deposit that check.
Okay, I guess I wonder why you're not putting it in the general fund.
It's going in the general fund.
It goes into the general fund. The Board of
Right.
Commissioners is part of the general fund.
Right, we're
Okay,
just
and
the
then-
department that receives it because that's how the payment processes through.
Got to remember, Jan, when you read Board of Commissioners, it's not just us. It's a whole line of things underneath the Board of Commissioners.
Yeah, but it
Right,
should
so
be
that's
under the-
administration.
This stuff, like if this stuff is from the Parks and Recreation, it should be expense, it's their expense. And it
Yeah.
should go into the
It's
general
expense.
fund, or it should go under the administration office, not the Board of Commissioners, because we don't have any say on that money.
Jan, maybe I can give you a little clue. Like, we charge the city of Ithaca indirect cost for these Ithaca people,
Uh-huh,
and we charge that in the full budget that we charge Ithaca. but some of that is indirect cost for payroll and administrative fees that we charge the city of Ithaca. So that money goes to the administrator's office out of that. Not all goes to deputies and cars.
Okay,
Okay, so it's in the sheriff's budget for Ithaca Sheriff Patrol. Some of that money goes over here to cover that.
yeah. What I'm saying is that this money's coming in to pay Chris. So, and Chris is really, I don't think he's not under the Board of Commissioners. He would be under the administrator. So wouldn't it go into the administrator's line items instead of ours? You go, Chris.
Yes,
Yeah,
they could.
They don't come with a check for Chris. It's just billed out, and it's billed out under us. And that percentage, they pay, that reimbursement for others might be a lot more money than that. And that's just part of, like the sheriff's saying, part of that 60,000 would be for us managing some of that money and doing some of that paperwork. So they pay a little bit of it to us, to the general fund, and then we spend it in the general fund as part of the budget.
Yep, but it's not coming to the general fund. It's coming into all this stuff is coming into the county commissioners. It says Board of the Commissioners.
Right, but
County Commissioners is general fund.
Right, your salaries are paid by the general fund.
Yeah.
And also part of the indirect cost actually does reimburse your salaries too. The Board of Commissioners salaries is a part of this indirect cost rate.
Mhm. See, I guess before everything, like anything the commissioner, like our wages and if we had pre diems would be all underneath the county commissioners. But what this money's coming into the commissioner's line item, but it's going out to Chris, which is in the administration office. So it seems like this should have came in your line item and went to you through your line, through the administration office.
You have handy a Board of Commissioners list.
So
You know
I
what
have
I'm
a
saying?
board,
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Everything that's underneath the Board of Commissioners.
I went through our old budget books and I didn't find it there.
it's on page 36. I think
Yes,
yeah. That's the Board of Commissioners.
Right. That's what I mean.
So I mean,
You go to page
all
36.
the factors that go into indirect costs, we have building depreciation, equipment depreciation, Board of Commissioners, county administrator, county treasurer, information management, utilities, buildings and grounds, insurance, fringe processing, and flex spending processing. And it's not, we just need a place to park it, to deposit it in the general fund. And 20 years ago, it was decided that it was going to get parked here in 101, which is the Board of Commissioners. It's because it wasn't doing any harm there. I haven't moved it. It's in compliance where it's
Right. I think that's ultimately kind of the, who has the expertise. If there's a question like that, is the auditor. And if it was in the wrong place, the auditor would have flagged that as being, inappropriately coded. And, every year, because that's been in there for as long as I can remember, that it's not an issue. So, I mean, I'm not an accountant, but I'm guessing that
I'll bring one of my older books in and I'll show you. But of course, we didn't have Chris back then either. So
yeah, it must have changed someplace. Do you have any idea when you were here, did you change it? Do you have any idea when you did that?
what was that?
Well, if it changed, it must have been here when you're part of this. Any idea when you changed that? When you changed that? You have that in any of your old books?
Yeah, I'll bring my old book in. That's where I went. I was looking through my old book.
Yeah, I'm looking right now.
We didn't have Chris here then, and so therefore it would
I don't
not
think
have
he
been on
changed it.
there.
I think it's been here ever since I've been here. And so
Right.
Chris has been here. Chris has
I
been
can
here.
tell
ever
you
since.
that, one of the nice things about being at home, I've got the 2017, 2018 board book in front of me, and we've got $330 some thousand of indirect costs in the Board of Commissioners revenue line. So, and this is pre-Chris, I believe.
Yeah,
So like I say, as long as I know, that's been in there. And again, I'm not an accountant, but I'm guessing if there was an issue with that, we would have, because we certainly, the accountants, the auditors haven't been, they haven't been reluctant to tell us in the past when we were doing things wrong. And
no,
it would certainly tell us if that was inappropriate, that was inappropriate, and ask us to, to make a reconciliation, and they have not, so.
Okay, well, I have another question for you. Under expenditures, I have dental and optical, $1,250. I didn't know the commissioners could have dental.
we don't.
Huh?
Dental and optical, yes.
Oh, I'd like to buy it.
You don't have to buy it. It's a benefit.
It's a
I didn't know that.
reimbursement.
Oh, you know what? I do too, Noah. I forgot about it.
Yeah, I got
Hey, you
that.
was here long before I was here.
You know what? I forgot we had it because when I worked at Clover, they gave it to me. So I didn't need it from you guys. So now I need it because I don't have it anymore. Okay.
There you go.
You got less than a month to spend it.
Well,
Extra
I just went to the dentist office. Hey, I just went to the dentist office. I had to find a new dentist. My old dentist cut his 3 fingers off accidentally.
Oh,
But anyway, I went to have a tooth checked. It was only $40. So I'll get the bill on it and bring it to you.
There you go.
So anyway, wow, I didn't realize that. I mean, I do realize it now that we talk about it, but I just forgot about it.
Okay.
Okay, well, see, it's a good thing we're talking about all this stuff.
All right. Anything else?
Okay, yep, just a minute here. Now let me turn a couple pages here. I think I marked most of the pages I had questions on.
while Jan is looking, on page 33, that's a projection of each account's fund balance at the end of the year, correct?
I'm maneuvering there. Give me 1 second.
It's 33.
Correct.
Yeah. So is there any reason we don't have a total on the bottom?
Because each fund is reported separately. They have their own independent funds and we don't commingle them. So each line has its own total. Does that make sense or do I need to reword that explanation?
Well,
Like,
I
we
would think
don't-
we want to know that there's X number of dollars total, right?
Well, from a management standpoint, not really, because, for example, if you look at what those funds are, we don't have access to those funds. So for example, if we were running a budget shortfall, we couldn't take money out of, the library fund to make up for it. They're independent funds, basically we just account for them. But
Okay.
they're not our funds, or maybe a better example is, road commission obviously has a pretty significant fund balance. But, no matter how bad things were, we can't just say, well, we're going to transfer that money out of road commission.
Road commission, it won't work.
No, they wouldn't be happy about that.
Okay, I have a question on page 156.
Jan, you used all your dental last year.
Huh?
You used all your dental reimbursement last year.
I couldn't have. I haven't gone to the dentist office for 2 years.
I have a receipt for you right here in the system.
My dentist hasn't been there for 2 years. I've been looking for a dental. I'll have to take a
Geez,
look
I
at
hope you
that.
did, Jan, otherwise you submitted a fraudulent receipt.
Oh, man.
No, I was trying to find another dentist. I haven't been able to find one because they were closed and then they weren't taking new patients. But I found one in Mount Pleasant where I'm gonna go.
Well, that could go back to October of 18, right? Or
Yeah,
Correct.
Last year.
19.
18, 19.
I was just gonna buy dental insurance. I forgot I don't need it. Well, thanks. See it? I'm so glad I'm asking questions. Well, okay, on page 156,
Yeah.
what is a wind farm planning fund?
What this is we are holding money for one of the wind farms for engineering costs. And when the bills come in, we pay the bills for them.
Oh, okay.
It was just part of the agreement when they approached us about constructing a wind farm here. So we hold some of that money for them and pay some of those engineering costs with their money though, not our money.
Okay, well, good to know. I had other questions. I marked a lot of places in this book. I figure you guys would have questions too, which would give me a chance to relook at my area. But I'm not gonna take up a lot of your time. If I have questions, I can still ask you later on.
Okay.
I just want to mention two things while we're talking. One about the animal control. I'm a parapro at the school. And before the schools were shut down, there wasn't, but every couple of days, I heard complaints about our animal control, about people who had cats or dogs that wanted to take them there. They were told, no, they couldn't because they had too many animals. But the problem was I had stopped there on my way back from Carson City. They had 2 cats and 1 dog. And this lady had called the same day that I was there, just happened I was over in St. Louis schools, and said that she had 3 baby kittens that she just wanted, to let somebody adopt them all.
They don't take kittens.
They don't, that's not what they told her. They just said they were too full.
Take kittens.
But I also see where if you give a cat or something to them, they want $10, but the tax dollars pay. The story on this is that used to be, if you had a cat or a dog or animal, like say in St. Louis, the police department came and got it and they would put them in cages. And if somebody claimed them, that was great. If not, then they took them over to the animal shelter. At that time, we had 1 person and they usually put them down after so many days. So everybody got together at that time, I guess the county, I'm not sure, I wasn't on the board at that time, but I knew what was going on because so many people, there was lots of cats and dogs running everywhere. And so they got together and decided that they would put on an extra person and they would start picking up the dogs and cats that were running all over the county. And the tax dollars would pay for that. And so now that you're charging these people $10 to bring their cat to them, when they used to take it, I mean, the police used to take them for free and take them over there. So I don't know if this is going to be an issue down the road. And I think that there's been a lot of complaints in my area. One was in Orchard Hills, and then there's been one out on Bagley Road where there was dogs. And then there's been several at the school, I'm hearing. So anyway, being on the board as a commissioner, these things, I don't know, are you hearing anything, Commissioner Murphy?
Not heard a word on, I haven't heard it.
On what?
You're at the schools. Have you heard anything at the schools on animals that they won't take? Usually,
Can't
I
recall.
don't know why, they all call me. I have people calling me from all over the place. That's not even in my district, but I mean, that's okay. I have not a problem with it at all.
Are
But,
you,
If I could please interject, first of all, our animal control officers follow the dog law of 19 something or other. The dog law does not provide for the picking up of cats. So our folks do not pick up cats, only dogs, and only under certain circumstances. The idea that we won't take animals because we are full, I don't know. And I would want to have that person call me. And Commissioner, I always invite you to have them call me because then I can really give them the story. I meet with the director of the animal control department every single week. And one of the things we go over is shelter inventory, complaints from the public and so forth. So I just, I would certainly like to hear the facts and the concerns in that particular case. Also, there were some limitations in what the shelter was taking during the stay home period because we just didn't have the staffing. And we were limiting the folks that would go into the shelter in order to keep everyone safe. And finally, a couple of years ago, this board reviewed some operating procedures and approved certain limitations on animals that would be taken in the shelter. All of this is adhered to and followed. So I would certainly like to talk to that citizen, Commissioner Bunting, and I would urge you always to give those folks my number. And
Well, first of all, school was still in. This was why, I mean, I'm at school when I'm hearing these things.
Yeah,
I
well-
voted at, Pine River was one of the schools and Carrie-Nell I was at Carrie-Nell's school. But I mean, the deal was back when they decided to open up the animal shelter here was that they would pick up, or you could bring in your animal, or they would pick it up if it was a fierce animal or one of these cats that are, like they got 12 cats running the neighborhood.
No.
So,
Don't pick up cats. We haven't picked up cats in at least the 4 years I've been here. It's dogs. And people can bring in cats. And yes, there's a fee for relinquishing an animal. And it's more understandable, I suppose, when you have the owner of a cat that just, can no longer have it in the apartment or the whatever. I mean, there is some cost to the county for caring for that animal, publicizing it, getting it adopted and so forth. So.
yeah, but you're using taxpayers' money to pay these people. They're already paying for it through their taxes. So why are they paying for it again?
I welcome this board to put that item on the agenda and to look at the animal control fees. I can assure you there's not a profit being made out there, but that's a decision this board has made at some point along the way, and I welcome further discussion about that.
Okay, I think we should can I ask our clerk to put that on the agenda for the next time?
Yeah, and I think, Jan, probably, I think Tom, obviously our director, Tom Clark, is probably the guy that we want to talk to. Either, have you contacted Tom about this yet, or?
No, I did stop out there. Actually, I went to Carson City and I came back and I stopped in. And I just stopped in because I always said I'd stop in and take a tour. And he said that he was in a hurry, but they only had 2 cats and a dog. And I knew they had just remodeled it. And I said I'd come back another time. Well, that was, I'm not sure the month, but then right after that, shortly after that, within a month, we no longer were working. So I've just let it drop. But I know several people I know somebody right now that people are dropping their animals off at their house. And they've got cats and dogs. Well, they got 1 dog. They will not keep any other dogs. They got like 8 cats, and I go out and feed them when they want to leave town. So I go out there and feed all these animals, and they don't want them put down. They like these animals, and I do too. I don't want to see these animals put down, but one person can only have so many animals, and it was brought up that they're paying wages for them to have a animal shelter, and yet some people are getting stuck with animals. By the way, the first thing people do, you have baby kittens or you got a dog or a cat you don't want, you go out in the country and look for a house and you throw it in the yard, you think goodbye, and that was it. And these people in the country are a little bit tired of it.
Jan, I think what we need, when you look at complaints, I've had a few on blight, and I get a name and I get a date and I get an address. And then I come to Tracy or whatever, and we had one in Pompeii here a few months ago, and we got it taken care of. But we had a name, we had who was complaining, we had what they were doing, what the deal was. We didn't have, I heard this at school or I heard this someplace else, and so it must be true. I mean, if you have names and stuff, you ought to get them down and you ought to take care of it. I mean, you ought to call somebody in that department. Maybe you call Tom and you say, somebody come out there and said your cats are full. Is that true? And it was Mrs. So-and-so who said that, not I heard that.
I got to tell you, a lot, I'm at the school, and like when you're at school, I go from class to class, and what's happening is as I'm walking, there's areas where you can sit and they're working with kids, or there's a group of that maybe have 10 minutes that they can sit there before they go on to the next class. And this is what their subject is. It's hard for me to stop and say, hey, how about your names? I'm going to turn this in for you. And, I'm not going to do that. In fact, I try to stay out of some of this stuff, but it is a talk at the school.
It's just kind of hearsay.
These are paras. I don't know.
Well, but it's just hearsay then. It's if you don't have a name and a complaint, I guess there's nothing you can do about it. If somebody says, I heard this, or I see this, if it happened to Susie Smith or whatever her name is, then go talk to her about it. and Take care.
Yeah, I will. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll get some of Tracy's cards. And I will pass out. It'd be easier for me to take a card and say, hey, give this person a call and they'll take.
There you
it
go.
For you.
A good
So
solution.
I'll get it. But that's why I'm bringing it up, because I'm looking at the, paying $10 to take a dog there and leave it, or probably a cat too. And I just think that, that people should, and I don't know, maybe they take them out there and just drop them off. I don't know. This is a time that we talk about all this stuff. That's why I brought it up.
Well, we've talked about animal shelter and animal control services at length for the past year. So Jan, it would be so helpful for you to get some of my cards and to pass them out, because with what you told me today, I don't know what issue to chase, but if I talk to the person who has the concern, I can get the information I need. I got to tell you right now, I don't even know what I would tell Tom Clark to come in and talk to you about in 2 weeks, other than why are we charging him $10? So I'll wait for additional instruction from this board, but I care about citizen complaints, and I talk to citizens regularly, but when I can talk to them directly, I can give them the information they need based on the facts at hand. And, that's a good use of our time. That's the best service to citizens.
Yeah. I'll be back in the schools here pretty quick. They call me. I'm not a everyday person at the schools. But as school gets going here, then I do work, and I work in 6 different schools. So every day I'm someplace in one of the schools. And a lot of these teachers, I don't know who they are. I mean, I just hear them talking on the break. Like if I walk in someplace and they're in there talking, I'm eavesdropping, but I'm listening, they're talking about an animal or whatever. And I'll just hand them a card. I'll take the cards with me when I go. That's the only place I hear about it. Is that
I won't hear about them, but that's what I would ask you to do, because an eavesdropped conversation, catching, how much of the conversation, I don't know what to do. So please do take my cards. And if there really is a concern in the community, let's take care of it. But I will say again that there has been significant time in the last year and a half during these meetings and discussion of, we had Dane here, we adopted new operating policies. You all looked at them, approved them. We follow the dog law. What our policies are about cats, including our operating procedures and the statute. It's all there. So please take my cards, hand them out, and let me talk to people who.
You have to keep in mind, I want you to keep in mind that everyday things change. Things might go along really good for 6 months, and then all of a sudden you got a dozen people that are unhappy with all their animals around them. And so, and I'm just telling you now, because we're going through the budget, it seems like a great opportunity to bring some of these things up. It doesn't mean that things can't be changed. We change things all the time. I mean,
but I think, right. So let's get some real information and not a rumor.
Yeah,
of course,
these are not rumors. These are people talking, and like you said, being on the board, passing that they have to pay $10. I'm a little concerned, and I don't think anybody should have to pay to take a dog in. That, first of all, it's not theirs. Somebody dropped it off at their house. And so what do they do with it? They don't want these are people that do care about animals. And you do have a group out there that are trying to adopt these animals out. And so nobody wants to kill an animal. I don't even want to kill a deer.
Well, Jan, every department has a fee schedule. I mean, I have to charge for fingerprints. I have to charge for PBTs. Every department has a fee schedule. And it looks like this was probably adopted, because right there at its drop off, it's $10. It was adopted by board at some point in time.
Yeah, in fact, Chris, maybe to get it back to fees in the budget, could you tell us again, have any fees changed year to year? I didn't think that there was any significant changes when I looked at it, but.
That's the only, that has not changed. It was on there last year and I noticed it. But I didn't realize it was such an issue until I hear people talking.
Jim, it's an issue because it's not a complaint. It's a hearing. The
other thing is this: they can take these to the police department, and drop them off, And the
No, they
police
can't.
department can
Yeah,
bring-
the
Think
police
about what
department
they
will
have.
not,
We won't
will
take
not take animals.
No, you won't, no, but I'm saying like in St. Louis, there was a dog that was loose. The police department went after the dog. I don't know if they called the animal shelter or if they grabbed it.
Yes, they call Tom Clark and he dispatches
Yeah.
his.
Yes. If we get a complaint in the city and there's no city or no animal control on, then we would go take care of it. We would take it out and put it at the shelter. Same for St. Louis or Elma. They'll drop off at the shelter now.
Yeah, that's what I mean, though. That's the same thing.
Do you have any questions?
No, well, I was trying to think. I did have some, but I can't remember now what they were.
Chris, were there any changes to the fee schedule in general? I didn't, like I said, I didn't really
Not that I'm aware of.
see
I'm
anything.
just bringing it up as that it's an issue out there and that it's not, I've heard it, I'm at a lot of schools. And so I'm hearing animal talk and I'm just letting you know. I don't want to wait until it gets bigger and bigger and then bring it to you. And you say, why didn't you tell me? I'm just saying that this is a little bit of an issue out there. I'm hearing things.
We would never say why, Dan, I would never say, why didn't you tell me? Because these people aren't telling you, you're just listening to their conversation.
Well, usually this is in an open place. They have tables where
Yeah.
you go and you sit down, everybody sits together and they talk about lots of stuff, but animals was.
In a complaint, I look like in a complaint 6 months ago, we had to road washing out here at Rainbow Lake. They asked me about it. I went over and took a picture of it, stopped in the county or the road commission. I talked to the gentleman and he said, oh, his foreman's been sick the last month. And he said, we'll get somebody out, take a look at it this afternoon. It was fixed 3 days later. That's not a complaint. This is a concern. But I didn't hear that over hearing somebody walking by in a tavern or in a school or whatever. People actually called me and said, hey, is there something you can do about this washout? Well, let me go look at it. I know nothing about
Yeah, I don't think you guys should get so defensive on it. I'm just telling you.
it. I'm just saying it's not a complaint because you're overhearing it. You're listening to somebody else's conversation.
Well, no, it's in a lounge where there's everybody sitting around a table. And there was probably 4 or 5 of us girls in there. And I had walked in and sat down and then they started talking about it. And I told her, I said, well, are you sure I was just out there? And she said, yeah, that they said that they were full. And I said, God, I was just there. But I said, check with them again. But then again, I'm not there. The next day I'm at another school. So.
Yes, but if
Anyway,
you're sitting around the table with 4 or 5 women, it sounds like that is a situation where you can get a name and contact information. And again, I urge you to do so that, because I don't want citizens that have incorrect information or they've misunderstood. We're here to provide service and you get their names and their contact information. And I am on the phone with you just as I am when Commissioner Smith calls me with something or, anyone else. So
Yeah,
do that.
give me some of your business cards because it's easier for me. None of us, you're talking like we only have like maybe 10 minutes. And I'm not really, like if I'm in and out,
Tracy, you got cards in your office.
yeah, give me about,
And get some
Yeah,
before
well,
you leave
I'll
tonight.
take about 50.
There you go. All right. Are we ready to move on? Has anybody else got any questions? Okay. Then we've got discussion. Do we have any public comment? Matt?
I'm not seeing any public comment.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on then.
I'll keep the red on me.
Okay. Then I will ask for a motion to adjourn our public hearing.
So moved.
Someone, Bark.
Ask the clerk, call a roll.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Bunting,
Yes.
Commissioner Lambert,
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey.
Yes. Okay. Now that we've had our public hearing, we've had comment. Now it's time to vote on the budget. Your resolution, resolution 20-001. Resolution to adopt the Gratiot County Budget, General Appropriation Act, and millage rate for the fiscal year October 1, 2020 through September 30th, 2021.
So moved.
Support.
And supported. Is there any other discussion to this matter?
I don't know that we should be moving forward. We don't have the report from the unions on how that's going to affect the budget.
We're going to have to,
Only September 1st.
but we have to.
That will be done via budget amendments, which will be presented to you probably at the next meeting.
Right. We have certain amount of days that we have to have this on for public inspection before it can become.
I thought I had to do public inspection before we.
No, we okay, and then the public inspects it, and we don't, it doesn't go into effect until October 1. So if
How many-
any changes to be made, we can do that.
How many days do we have to post it for public inspection?
It's.
It's been on the website since September 1st,
Yeah,
so it'll be a full 30 days before this budget actually goes into effect.
You know what, I gotta tell you, last year, we didn't okay this until the very end of September. It was almost.
But that's.
I agree. I would like
to do this.
I would like to take at least, go ahead and just do it one more week. And kind of look, I only got partway through it because I was going through my other budget book stuff.
I can assure you that based on the tentative agreements that our two unions have ratified, that we're well within, what would be considered a prudent and fiscally responsible budget with what Chris has presented. If you recall, the budget that Chris has presented does have a small surplus, and without getting into a lot of details, that's a number that is certainly workable with the agreements that we've reached.
Well, I gotta tell you, I've had the budget for a week. And it seems to me that, during this whole time, there's a couple of other things. I was trying to think what it was else I wanted to talk about. We used to get reports from every department every month. And then we decided to go to every other month. And then you decided to go only 4 times a year. And then it was 3 times a year. And now we don't get any reports. We don't have any report on how many animals came into the animal shelter and the cats and the dogs. We don't get any reports from child advocacy to see how many children are being, what's going on with that, whether they're being put into homes and stuff like that. There used to be a report from everybody every month. And now we get no reports. And actually, I know less today than I did 20 years ago coming onto the board. 20 years ago, every department I had to read about every twice a month. No, I'm sorry, once a month. But we had 2 meetings and we had a finance meeting. We now have just 2 meetings. Our finance meeting is at the end of a full board meeting. And we get what you want us to know, but we don't really get to know what really is going on in the county. And I think that is an issue. It's been an issue with me for some time now. And little by little, you give us less and less information. And I got concerned about it.
Well, Tracy's door is always open. Chris's door is always open. You can ask me any question you want. But they're here all week long. They got numbers, their numbers. You can call them, you can come in and see them at any time.
I would like to see us go back to reports at least every other month. We were going to rotate those, like some offices would do it 1 month, like 6 of them would do it every other month, and the other would do the other every other month. We don't do anything. We don't know. I haven't had any reports this year on the animal control. I haven't had anything on anybody, really. And it used to be, I can tell you what I am going to do. I probably won't be working as much right away. So I think I'm going to start spending a couple of days in the courthouse, going to every department, and ask them how things are going. And used to be, we had a book that told us how many people, who who it was that worked in each one of the departments and what their jobs were.
You have it right in your
That book
budget.
and show it to you.
You have a list right in your budget.
Yeah, but what is their names? I've seen people before out and they said they worked at the county and I said, what department you work in? I didn't even know they were hired here. And it used to be the county commissioners hired and they also let people go. And I see that was one of the issues in here. It's nice that the administrator and the chairperson and the chairperson of finance wants to do all this stuff. But the reason you have all of the commissioners is that we're all supposed to be involved in everything and we're not. And I thought that was very unusual to have, you are chair of the board and vice chair of finance. And Tim is chair of the finance and vice chair of the board. There's 5 people that sit on this board.
You know, Jan, I don't need to know how many pencils they bought last month, and I don't need to know how many people they died last month, and I don't need to know how many people got tickets for drunk driving, and I'm in the courthouse quite a bit, and I don't know everybody who works there. That's okay with me. I was put here by my constituents to help manage this operation, not to go in there and be part of that saying, I don't like the way this girl looked at me, so I want somebody to fire her. Right? I think this person's rude and I want them fired. I don't think they're doing their job. That's not my job. And that's not your job as commissioner. Your job is.
I'm going to tell you something. It's up to you. Well, that's not your job. It's not on our jobs anyway. If you bring it up on
If you want to go to
Google,
spend 2 days a week in the courthouse just talking to people, I think you're just tying them up.
well, that's your opinion. That is your opinion.
That's not.
And you're welcome to it. You're welcome to it. Used to be all of the commissioners went to every single department. As every year you visit every single department just to walk in and say hello and introduce yourself. And by now they would know me, but they probably wouldn't know Chuck Murphy over there. Because I don't think have you been to any of the departments, Mr. Murphy?
I toured the whole building to the main departments when I first joined the board, but
Okay.
that's about it.
It's okay with me if you're not interested in these things. I brought it up on Google. What
It's about
is
position when you're.
what is your,
position in
yeah.
the company.
I can't, I'm sorry.
You're breaking up, Sam.
It's really about knowing your position in this county. And your position is not to go in and tell your people, your constituents of your districts that I went in and met Susie. She's not very nice, but the other lady in the office.
That's not what the intent is. That's not what the intent is.
You're talking
That
about
is not-
complaints and you're just walking by, hear people talking and they're not complaints.
I gotta tell you, Sam, I've been on the board 20 years.
Yeah,
And
I
how
don't
many
think
years
it
have you
makes any
been on? And I gotta tell you, it's changed dramatically, like 90% since I've been on the board since this last few years. But I am telling you this, if you bring up what is the duties of a county commissioner, it will tell you that our duty is to do the everyday budget and to know the money coming in and going out.
And we have it right there in front of you on a screen.
Well, yeah, you got it 2 weeks or a week ago. And these numbers don't mean anything to me. It'd be like me giving you,
Good.
it's like you giving me your checkbook and
I know Chris communicated with you all the way through this budget process.
yes. And
Any
I,
meeting that you wanted to attend, you were able to attend, or you could attend. Did you attend any of those meetings?
Right, and we actually did look at the budget, the draft budget last month. This isn't a whole lot different from what I can tell. I think Chris pointed out the things that were changed, but this isn't something that was just dumped on us. And Jen, I do appreciate your concern, because when you mention it, we haven't gotten a report from animal control lately. And
haven't gotten any reports from anybody.
Right. Well, I'm assuming that's probably just because of staffing from COVID. On the other hand, just so you know, we are not in charge of child advocacy. That is not a
No, we're
county
not. We're not in
organization.
charge of anything.
No,
But
I meant when you had mentioned that we don't know what, we hadn't heard from child advocacy. That is not under our jurisdiction. They're not a Gratiot County agency. Even though they exist in Gratiot County, they don't fall under, they don't even.
I'm on the child advocacy board.
Yeah, I said child advocacy. I'm sorry. I meant to say the child upstairs. What's it called?
Into the court?
Not the front of the court.
Child Welfare Fund.
Child Welfare Fund. I'm sorry, I meant the Child Welfare Fund. They used to come in just about every meeting and give a report of where we were at. Again, back when I first came on the board, we didn't have any money. And so I got to tell you, you knew where every penny coming in and going out was. And I think Chris does, a good job, but these numbers mean nothing to me. I don't even know who's in what office, and I don't know, I mean, I've kind of lost contact with what's going on in the courthouse. I'm just saying that the duties of the county, in fact, I will print them off and bring them in. I read it on the computer just before I left, what our job is to do. And really, I don't do anything except rubber stamp everything, and I don't like that. That's not what our commissioners are supposed to be doing. And as you knew, when we no longer had finance meetings, it was against the law. You have to have a finance meeting. So you guys stuck it on the back of another meeting, and you had a 10, 15-minute meeting. But I'm not here to argue with you. I'm just telling you that I have great concerns. And I think that you want to hurry everything through. Any commissioner in this room or on that board or in that TV there can say, I want a little bit more time. And instead, you guys put the pressure on, you want them to do it. You want us to do it right now, right now. I can tell you last year was the very end of September when we okayed it. I know because.
Recall, Jan, you did not okay the budget last year.
I know, I said, no, I did not okay it.
That's
No,
right.
you're right. It's hard for me to okay something that I'm not really sure of all the numbers. I have not talked to any of the departments. It used to be the departments came in and talked to you, and then you knew what was going on in their department. It was easier to understand the figures than it is to just look at figures and say, okay, they must be all okay because Chris did it. And I'm sure he's doing a great job, but that's not what our job is. Our job is to know all these figures and know what's going on in these departments, money coming in and money going out. What I don't understand, and this is a big question in the community, is where's all the money from the wind turbines going? And I tell them, well, it goes to different things in the county. But I mean, we're talking now, I just got the paper on it. I have not had time to look at it. And this is another thing too. Why I had to go and get this myself. Why are we not being passed out this paper that tells us all about the money that comes in from the wind turbines and where it goes?
Jan, it's online. Greater Gratiot puts out a thing probably every 6 months on it.
Right, and Greater Gratiot actually presented to us. It's been a while now because of course we've had
That's the same
windmills for a
No,
long
you got
time.
one last year. Did you get the 2019?
Yeah,
No, I
Gratiot-
had the one, I had the one last year, but I asked them to do it. And I asked her, I told her, I said, why don't we get it? And she said, I'll put you guys' name on it. From now on, you'll get it. It's Kelsey that does it.
Casey, yes.
She just finished it. You couldn't have gotten it. She just
Right,
had it
right.
done.
They present that to us regularly. Again, the numbers change, but again, that number's been out there for a long time, unfortunately not
No, it
everybody.
hasn't.
is
She just
still
got it
aware.
done. I just got it from her.
Right, but it's
She
not
just
new.
finished it.
It's not
I'll
new.
call-
They've been doing that for years and years and years.
No,
and
they
years.
haven't. No, they haven't. Don Sure, the first time I ever got one was the night that Don Sure went to the township meeting and he passed it out. That was the first time I'd ever seen one.
Right, but Don
then
Sure,
from
that
then
was a
on-
long time ago.
I know, well, it's been about what, 4 or 5 years ago.
Jan,
I
I've
don't
seen,
think it's been that long.
Jan, I sit on that Greater Gratiot board, and I've seen a number of them. Chuck, you've seen a number of them. Tracy's on that board. They put those things out every year.
Right, here's the 2017 one. if
Yep,
you're
I have
curious.
them. I have them because I go to her office to get them. After the first one, I went to her office and they started giving them to me. But why
on their-
hasn't it?
People don't pass out paper anymore,
Do
Jan.
you have one of these, Chuck? Do you have one of these?
I don't have it printed out. I believe it's available online.
It's all available on their
Yeah,
website.
this one is, I think, the last time that they actually printed them and gave them to us in a meeting. That's where I got this one from. Is when they
I
came
think
in
I sent-
I think
2017.
you are right. It's been some time since they've given a report here.
Usually once a year, and it was last year, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, we do get the report. It's in your, every
With Greater
month,
Gratiot.
we get the minutes from Greater Gratiot as part of the consent agenda. And so,
Well-
you really need to read the consent agenda to find out. That's how I keep up on what the agencies are doing, because, that's why that stuff is in the consent agenda. It's communications from them to us and to other interested parties.
Yeah, I do read Greater Gratiot, all the things that they do. But this here, because I got to tell you, I just talked to Kelsey again. I asked her, I said, how come the county commissioners, I asked her how she got the numbers. Do you know how she gets the numbers?
Through the equalization department.
Yeah, that's right. She, and I asked her, because I had asked how much money comes in from the wind turbine. And I was told at that time when I asked that there was no way of knowing. In fact, Wheeler Township asked me how much,
Oh, this is.
I mean, Wheeler Township and Bethany Township, they're the first two that had the wind turbines. And they did not know how much money came in from the wind turbines. It wasn't until I gave them one of these sheets and they called me and said, thanks. They always wondered how much came in.
They never looked at their checkbook when the county wrote them a check for what to come in?
They said it's not separated. They get one, they send all the money in and it comes back and it's not divided up to how the money goes. So this is, I'm just saying that.
Right, well, in the way,
I'm trying to do a conversation with you. You're very defensive on it. And I'm just trying to tell you, and you want to make it sound worse than what it is. I'm just telling you, I've got some concerns and, maybe we can work on these concerns. I think that we should, let's just talk about it. I think every year we can maybe when these come out, pass them out and I give everyone in my township gets everything. They get the report from the sheriff's office. They get this here, they get whatever I get, I give it to them. That's what my job is, and that's probably why I'm still a commissioner. Because I'm there all the time and in between times I go out and give them information that they need, or I always give it to them in the paper. I don't just tell them, I give them what they need. So anyway, but I would just, I'm just trying to bring things up to you. I'm trying to say that there's 5 commissioners on this board and sometimes I feel like you guys want to bully me, or I don't know about Chuck, he doesn't say much, but I think that you need to just, I'm just telling you, you don't have to accept it or whatever, you can just listen and let it go. But I'm going to ask for more information from here on out. I'm going to ask more questions and I want more proof. I want it in writing. And it's okay, Sam, you don't have to, it's okay. Some people, a lot of commissioners have been on this board and didn't care. They don't care about all that stuff. That's okay. My people care. I mean, because they're so used to getting it.
Yeah, but what it is the questions that you ask, you start off with a complaint about animals and they couldn't drop their thing off and they had to pay $10 and they told them they were full. Then all of a sudden we end up, you're walking by in a schoolroom, in a lunchroom, listening to them. And then we went from that to a complaint. Now you're engaging with them about it. And so you're not real precise on what you're saying about this stuff.
Well, what I'm trying to tell you is that now I'm a parapro at the school and all of us go from room to room depends on where you're at, every 20 minutes.
But I say a complaint is when I come to you as your constituent and say, Jan, I'm tired of that telephone pole being across the road. Is there anything you can do about it? And you say, let me check it out and see. I'll go get a hold of the road commission. I'll call Tracy, see who to call. I'll call consumers for you. That's a complaint. But now when you start off that we were told, somebody told me that the place was full and they couldn't take any animals. And then when we ask you, who was that somebody? Well, I heard them talking in the school when I walked by. They were having a conversation. I wasn't really there. I was just eating my lunch. And then the next thing we come to is that, well, I was talking to them and I told them that, it's not right that you pay the $10. So now you're engaged in their conversation. But
I didn't tell them the $10.
That's not a complaint.
Mr.
No,
Chair,
I'm just
I
telling
think
you.
we're kind of,
There's a motion on the board.
yeah, Mr. Chair, I just want to remind everybody, there is a motion and a second on the floor. And at this point, I'd like to call the question.
Okay.
Before we vote, my big complaint is that we're doing this September 1st. So.
Okay. Any other questions? Ask clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Bunting,
I'm going to vote yes.
Commissioner Lambert,
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy,
I think it's too early to vote on it. I'm voting no.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey.
Yes.
Now, Commissioner Murphy, if you look in the Roberts Rules of Order, you can ask for an extension and we have to give it to you.
An extension for what?
That you want another week to look at the budget.
So you're gonna bring the board back in an emergency meeting?
Well, yes, we did an emergency meeting a week ago.
Well, why couldn't it be done the 15th at the next meeting? I believe we've already voted,
But you have that right. You need, I'll give you a book of the Roberts Rules of Order and you need to read it. And it'll tell you what you can and cannot do. I was gonna vote no, but I thought to myself, you know, things are gonna change because I'm gonna start asking more stuff for more things
Okay.
on this board.
I can move on now. Okay, we're up to the administrator's report.
Okay, can you all hear me?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Well, ironically, I was going to begin with a little report about the animal shelter. I, of course, meet with Tom Clark every week. I think at our meeting today, this is the first time in the 4 years that I've been here that Tom Clark has reported that he has absolutely no animals at the inn. He and Blair are taking a trip to Saginaw this week up to pick up some dogs. I believe they have a hoarding case over there. And Saginaw has been very helpful to us over the years when we've been full. So he's looking to offer this mutual support. And of course, this is exactly the way we want to interact with our partners. So very pleased about that. In equalization, of course, Keegan offered his full report to this board 2 weeks ago. Not much has changed since then. The field work for commercial and industrial properties has been completed. He's now working on the evaluation of these numbers. Ag property is progressing, and he's shooting for a completion date for the ag property for mid-September. And this is a very comfortable schedule and even a little bit ahead of where things were last year. The airport work group met last Wednesday, August 26th. I'll leave it to Commissioner Lombresh to report on that. Also, we have had some movement on the Blight Project. All of the supervisors of the participating townships and our own prosecutor have agreed on ordinance language. They will now get this scheduled and noticed for public hearings. So movement on that. I'm now working on the intergovernmental agreement for the various relationships and responsibilities. And that will pass through those boards as well. The open enrollment period for 2021, the health benefits began last Friday, so Terry's very busy. Each employee has to go into the Navigator system, even if they don't want to make any changes. So that's a lot of activity. Terry gets a lot of calls about how to work with that system. Once the open enrollment period closes, employees may only make changes under very specific circumstances. So there's a great deal of emphasis on, this has to get done and here's how it's done. And of course, Terry is just indispensable part of this process and helping our staff with their individual needs. Excuse me. A number of staff plan to take next week off, taking advantage of the long Labor Day weekend, myself included. Tom Clark, Tony Miller, and I know George will be out of town next week. Tony and I return September 14th. Tom Clark returns on the 21st. So if we do want to bring him in, that would have to be in October. And otherwise, we're just doing the day-to-day business of the county and for the people. And that's my report for this evening.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions of Tracy?
I would like to mention, is this the reason why you didn't want to prolong this budget, is because you guys are going to be out of town?
No. This is all done before I even found out I had to leave.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'll also comment that we take our leave time around the work, not the other way around.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Committee reports, Chuck.
Let's see, we had a health board meeting and I think it's a positive development that the health board is going to try to work something out with get the gyms to be able to open up. And the only other thing I have is Riverdale is having their meeting with Eagle September 9th. I believe it's going to be virtual.
Thank you. Tim?
As Tracy pointed out, we did have the second meeting of the kind of the ad hoc airport committee, you know, with the users and some of the other interested folks, you know, just to figure out what this transition looks like. And I think, you know, we're making some good progress. We're getting some good feedback from people in terms of, you know, what are our options in terms of, you know, if the county is to take on a larger role, you know, would there be a board? What would that board look like? It probably wouldn't look like, you know, the existing airport authority. And then just what types of things would have to happen for a transition, if there's a transition of responsibility to the county, what does that mean in terms of, you know, everything from property, you know, to the property ownership to fiduciary responsibility to, you know, there are things that have to be changed on contracts. So there's a lot of kind of nitty gritty detail work that's going to have to happen. And some of the things I think are going to be tricky. I noticed in looking at the old airport authority agreement, part of the original agreement that was entered into by the municipalities said that the properties that the airport occupies, and its properties plural because there's a couple different parcels, some which are in the county's name, some which are in the city of Alma's names, would be transferred over to the airport authority. As far as I can tell, that's never happened, because if you look at the plat map or if you go to GIS, it still says Gratiot County and the city of Alma. So there's even going to be kind of issues like that. And so is it a question, does that property have to be transferred? Do we have to initiate like a long-term lease from the city of Alma for their property for 100 years for $1 or something like that? So just a lot of kind of boring but important details now that we're going to have to work through. But I think some of the people who've been participating, you know, who are some of the users and also some of the business people, like, you know, John Lapine or some of the, you know, the people who've had previous experience, you know, even working with and managing the airport. I think they're feeling that we're making some progress in the right direction. We also did have an actual airport authority meeting. The airport authority is still the governing body and fiduciary body. We had to do a remapping of the airport landings. There's you know, these government requirements that have to be done, you know, every so many years. And so we basically just had to have a meeting to award a contract to do that, and then we just gave an update on what was going on. And I think the people who were in the meeting kind of reiterated that's their desire really to have us take on a larger role, which many of you have expressed an interest in. So.
Okay. Sam? Oh, you're not on, Sam.
I had a conference call on the budget for Greater Gratiot last week, and then really down here, they're just putting windmills in. I mean, I can't believe how fast these things are going up. I think they have all the bases set. It's just amazing. You got 3 or 4 of these real high cranes, and they're putting 2, 3 up a day, I think. It's just an amazing thing to watch.
Okay, thank you. Jan?
I had a meeting online yesterday, actually on Zoom, with Michigan Works. Unfortunately, they're having problems getting us on Zoom. There's 30 to the meeting plus. And so I finally went on by phone. And did I tell you the last time I had a meeting at the prison that was
No.
online with the phone? I used to do that meeting every year. There's 2 or 3 a year, maybe more than that. And I used to go to the prison for the meeting. I represented the county as a commissioner because it's in my district. And anyway, because of the virus, we do it over the phone. So you don't really see anybody. You just kind of talk and give a report if you have anything. And it's usually a 15-minute meeting. And then I'm really not on the board for child advocacy. They just invite me because I went to the Magnet meeting back when they were here. I believe it was back in the February or March. They came to Gratiot County and that's who put it on, was the child advocacy. And it was about kids that were on drugs and drugs that were being passed even at school. And at the time, I think I told you, they had a 13-year-old that was dealing with drugs or had drugs taken to school. So anyway, I do their meetings. And one of the things that they're looking for right now is foster parents. They're looking, you take a class online, and I really don't know all the details, but you kind of have a child that you'll do things with. And it's a little bit different, I think, than big brother, big sister. At least they're calling it a foster parent. I would like to get into it, but I'm just way too busy. Too many things going on right now. So it may be something I'll do later on. And then the big thing is that I'm going to go back as a parapro. I work at, Chuck is with a one-on-one, and so he works every day. And I sometimes take his place. And I am a parapro, but I substitute for a parapro. And I do 3 schools in Alma and 3 schools in St. Louis. And I find it interesting and fun. I'm anywhere from working in a kitchen, in a library, one-on-one with a child, or I help children with reading or with arithmetic. And it was funny because a friend of mine said, do you think you could do the arithmetic? I go, it's just simple, add and subtract and multiply, but they do it a little bit different, as you know, Tim. They do like little boxes and stuff, which is kind of good. Then they keep their numbers separated and stuff. But anyway, you get a lot of exercise. Because before the classes were 20-minute classes. So you get a child, you have 20 minutes with them, then you take them back and you grab another child, but you have to take them to an area to do the reading or the math. And this year, what it's going to be is I will relieve somebody, but I'll have just 2 rooms and I will go from one class to the other class, but there'll be just those 2 classes. And the children are not going to be going from it depends. Alma, they stay in one room and the teachers, I guess, move around and instead of the kids, and the parapros will move around. I don't know for sure what St. Louis is doing, but today I am right next to the high school and I see they let out so many classes and they go outside to eat their lunch and then they go back in. And at 1 o'clock, they were still doing lunches today. So it'll be real interesting. And I'm doing it because I know they need the help. I don't get paid very much and it's not about the money. It's about they need the help. The kids need the extra help. Just helping them with their reading or their arithmetic is just very rewarding. And a lot of kids just need someone to be with them for a little while. So anyway, it's something I enjoy. And I also do special ed for children. And that's where you go in with kids that have problems at home and you go in and you just kind of help them get through that day and do, what you do less work with what they're supposed to be doing, but it's a more quality type of work. So I find it very interesting and I've been taking classes so I can, be on board with it. One of the biggest classes I had to take was I had children that bite, scream, kick, hit. So I have to learn how to grab them and hold them so they don't hurt themselves or hurt me. So I've taken that class. So anyway, that's what I'm doing starting this week.
Good. Like Chuck reported, we had a health board meeting. They are going to try to work with the local physical gyms and things like that and see what they can do about helping them. Other than that, I didn't have any meetings. My meetings come usually at the first of the month. So, all righty, moving on. Bill.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Been interesting. I'm here for the agreement between MSU Extension and the county, and it's something that we do every year. This specific agreement, I believe, is identical to last year because we didn't, and Tracy's reviewed it, but we did increase the assessment the general assessment or the amount for 4-H program coordination. So those are the two amounts that are contained in the agreement. Those monies are paid to MSU Extension. MSU Extension in return provides services in regard to agriculture, agribusiness, health and nutrition, community development and natural resources, and youth development. So those are the areas that, plus oversight of employees. The county provides 1.5 FTEs. We talked about the FTEs earlier of actually county employed staff that are actually help supervise. I oversee those staff. And so some of those indirect costs that were talked about earlier involve the oversight of those. And that goes to the to what Chris talked about earlier. So that may be one reason why that resides in the commissioner's budget. But that's what happened. That's what happens, as well as we are committing to give a report at least annually. We've talked about that, and that is the 2019 annual report is posted on the website. So you can go through that through the county website and access that. Just want to report from January through June 30th. It's been difficult as it has for everyone else, but we're fully operational. We've got those 2 support staff, one that are 1.5 support staff, Joan Taylor and Cami Paxi are working in the office at least Monday through Thursday. I have them working remote on Friday. I have them not working at the same time. I have educators. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 educators working, and I have one coming in several days a week and the others, to the extent possible, working remote. So we're trying to do that since January through June. Gratiot County residents, I've been able to dig through the numbers. It was a little difficult at first, but converting to online programming for the most part, over 100 different programs have been utilized in those areas that we're talking about. If there's been one complaint, and I share it with them, is the frustration over the youth not being able to participate in in-person programming. And that's a frustration that the program coordinators are the most frustrated with. Unfortunately, just for the safety of everyone involved in gatherings together, that is just an issue we've had to work through and continue to work through. So with that, I'll end it there. I know we've had a long evening, but if there's any questions about that agreement and understanding it, I just wanted to go through it to make sure it was understood and then ask that you sign it.
I'll make a motion that we sign this agreement, it's same as last year. And
Do we have a support?
Support.
Pick one. Is there any other questions, Bill? All right, then, I ask the clerk to call a roll.
Commissioner Lambert,
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Bunting,
yes,
Commissioner Bailey,
Yes.
well,
But I think
in a hurry, I wanted to let you know that I finally had to get a new computer. Mine, and I also got all my computers together and got them fixed. So that might be why I didn't email back. I see that there were some things from you and I didn't, it was past due.
Okay.
Yeah, my computer was 17 years old, so
All right.
finally went out.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, and
Appreciate it.
Bill,
Thank you.
just stop into my office.
Sure.
you have your key for the back door. Tracy,
Yeah, I'm all set. I've got no problem. We can get out the back door.
he needs a key.
Tracy wants me to stop at her office.
Oh, all right.
Tracy, you'll
Right by the-
come out?
Tracy.
I'll get him.
Yeah,
I'll get a
Tracy.
key. Yeah.
Okay,
Hey, George,
all right.
George,
Yeah,
he had a quick question for Chuck on his report. Chuck, did the township take over that whole issue with Eagle? Or is it still that little community group out there with the sewer thing?
There's a community group, and what was the first part of your question?
The township, I had asked them, when they all come here
Township's
7
involved.
months ago. They were gonna take that position over instead of a county, them, there was a lady and 2 or 3 gentlemen there, that kind of had a handle on it.
Right, that's the township, that was a supervisor and a couple members of one member of the township board. And they've been working with Eagle through this. And it'll have to be the township that makes
Isn't the minutes,
decisions on it.
emergency minutes?
There is a
Okay.
community, a group in Riverdale also.
Right, yeah, we're there. They come and I just remember asking what the township is.
I'm sure I read them.
This is the 18th, it'd be on the 25th.
I'm sure I read them. No, it'd be,
Last party you broke up, but
Public.
it was before the meeting. Before that meeting.
We're gonna be going out the
Wasn't that
It's
the
there, I
25th?
saw it. Yeah, it was before. It was right after we had the first board meeting. It would have been before the finance meeting or before the last meeting. It would have been on the last meeting's minute. I'm having a side conversation with Dan here.
Do we get a copy of that?
Yeah.
That
it's in-
bond?
If you, yeah. It's up in the treasurer's office.
I think we should have a copy. I put it in.
Well,
one
it's
of
in
my
the
other-
clerk's got a copy of it.
Oh, okay. I'll stop up there and get one.
Yeah, okay. All
I
right,
put it with all my stuff.
yeah.
To check
Okay.
my last minutes.
All right, let's see. Before we go into closed session, because we'll be doing right after that, right after closed session, we'll have to make a decision on the union contracts. I will ask for public comment so that people won't have to wait around if there's any public comment. Is anybody waiting for a public comment?
I only see the people that have been connected this whole time, so it's John that's out there. So if John wants to make a public comment, please unmute yourself and do so. Otherwise, yeah, I'm not seeing him unmute himself, so I think
Okay.
we are all set.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session to discuss union contracts.
So moved.
You know, you're right. That's so quick. I don't know why I thought it was the 25th.
Yeah, so, been moved and supported that we go into closed session. We ask the clerk to call the roll. Yeah,
Commissioner Murphy,
yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Bunting,
Yes,
Commissioner Lambert,
but it's
Yes.
still, all of our minutes
Yes.
at the very end, don't they? All of our minutes come at the end. I have to look at them.
okay.